Hello, Profit Hackers. I'm Jeremy Lott, the Chief Visionary for Foundation Accounting and Consulting. I owned a construction company for about 15 years before making a change to accounting because my accountants sucked. My goals are to simplify accounting for construction company owners, fuel your profits, level up your cash flow, and help you grow in a financially responsible way. So let's go. Hello, Profit Hackers, and welcome back to the Contractors Profit Hacks Show. This is Jeremy Lott. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit today about how I lost my tooth. Yeah, right there. I know it's not that professional, and I probably should get it fixed so that I look like a professional that people can trust to help them with their money. But I'm okay with it. It took me quite a while to get okay with it. And now I've kind of leaned into it. And today, I'm going to tell you the story of how I lost my tooth, right? Now, some people may argue that they've heard other stories. I'm not going to speak to that, but this is the story, all right? I was a landscaper, as you know, as you've heard me talk about. And as a landscaper, we decided that it would be great for us to take up hydroseeding. I still support hydroseeding as the best way to plant a lawn. The seeds germinate in your own soil, so there's no weird soil profiles going on like there is with sod, and it is insulated with the mulch, so it makes the seed germinate faster and healthier and at a higher percentage than just sprinkling out some seed wherever, right? So we decided to buy a hydroseeder. It was a healthy investment, and of course had to buy a truck big enough to be able to tow it, which was awesome. I had a Dodge Ram 3/4 ton. It had the gooseneck hitch in the bed, and it was a V10, which was awesome. And it had an airbag suspension in the back, which was also awesome. And I love that truck, right? But we're not talking about the truck. We're talking about the hydroseeder. I jumped into this and we started kind of going through and home shows and, different events. We were selling to people and giving out quotes. And we were at about 8 cents a square foot at the time. And, we did an extra good job. We did 2 coats with the mulch with the hydroseeder. So they got twice as much seed and twice as much mulch. We made sure to include fertilizer in there so that it would take off and be even healthier. And we just did a really solid job and had really good results with our hydroseeder, right? The problem was that I didn't understand selling value. And so I was giving out this 8 cents a square foot price to people. Sometimes we would go down to 7 cents a square foot if it was bigger. There were a couple jobs we went all the way down to 6.5 cents a square foot. And we had no idea because, I didn't know at the time about pricing or anything that I've included in the You Suck at Profit and It's Not Your Fault book at the time. And so when we would go talk to people, we would present our price to them and they'd say, well, This guy over here is doing it for 5 cents a square foot. And at first, that guy wasn't as prominent. And so we were landing a lot of jobs and things were going really well for the hydroseeding industry for us, right? But his 5 cents a square foot started spreading like wildfire. And people started finding out about it and reaching out to him. And so when we were presenting him with our 8 cents a square foot, the problem is that it was being compared to his 5 cents a square foot. Now, he used half as much mulch. He did not use fertilizer. He used half as much seed as we did and spread it out even thinner, right? And so his lawns didn't come up as healthy and happy as the ones that we sprayed down. But people were okay with that because they didn't really know the difference. They had no way of knowing because we weren't communicating the difference, right? And so typically what happens in that scenario when people are offering things for below their cost is they go out of business. Well, the problem was the person running this 5 cents a square foot business had a father that was also a contractor, and he needed something for his son to do. And he didn't really care if what his son was doing made money or not. So he was financing all the losses, right? Well, it wasn't long before we started getting so few jobs that we couldn't sustain it any longer. And so we ended up selling the hydroseeder and moving on from that whole venture, right? And that was really frustrating. It was really hard. You know, I learned that lesson about pricing the hard way. So the question that I have for you today is, does competitive pricing, the low-cost pricing, right, is that ruining the construction industry? I really want you to take a second and think about that. And I would love for you to comment down below in the comments and let me know your thoughts on that, right? So maybe pause this, take a second to throw some comments down below about your thoughts on competitive pricing. All right, so let's pick back up here. Here are my thoughts on competitive pricing. As I've mentioned before, if you want to be the low-cost leader, there are 2 requirements. You have to be able to purchase your supplies and your labor and all of those things, all of your costs. You have to be able to purchase in bulk and at the absolute lowest possible price. If you want to charge less, it has to cost you less. Okay? That's the first thing that you need. The second thing that you need in order to be the low-cost leader is a very large volume of work. If you're only going to be making pennies on every job, you have to collect a lot of pennies in order to make a profit, right? And you definitely can do that. Companies like Walmart are a perfect example of that, right? They beat up their vendors so they can get the absolute lowest price, and they have millions of people go through their stores every day and buy things. So they're gathering a lot of pennies every day. And so if you cannot do those 2 things that I just mentioned, there is no way that you can be the low-cost leader. It can't happen. And so here's the other part of that. If you can't be the lowest cost leader, there is no strategic benefit to being the second cheapest. None. This is a Dan Kennedy concept. I learned it from him and Russell Brunson, who likes to talk about it. There is no strategic advantage to being the second cheapest. It doesn't work. It'll never work. And so instead, you need to compete on the other end. And on the other end means that you have to provide so much value and communicate that value to them that the people now have a choice of what's most important to them, the value that you're bringing them or the price. And there are people that will go both directions. So the goal is to focus on the ones that are going to buy on value and the value that you communicate to them, right? So is competitive pricing ruining the construction industry? I don't think so. My opinion is no. There's always going to be people that charge less. And my story was a little bit atypical because it's not very common for someone to be able to continue doing that when they're charging less than their cost. That was kind of a unique situation. For the most part, people that try to be the low-cost leader that cannot buy supplies and labor and all of those things at the cheapest price possible and that don't have a huge volume of work, they're going to go out of business. So yeah, they'll win some jobs, but there is a way to compete at the other end on value. And that is what we teach. That is what we want to help you with, so that you're competing on value and you're competing at the other end. So the jobs that you get are better clients. They pay better. The profit's better, right? All of those things. So focus on value and let the people that want to have the competitive pricing go ahead and have the clients that want competitive pricing. Make sure you communicate your value and you'll get the higher price jobs. Okay? This is Jeremy with Foundation Accounting and Consulting. And I'm here to tell you that it ain't magic, it's a process. And we're teaching you that process. Have a great day and go get lots of green M&Ms. Thanks for listening. If you found this episode helpful, please like and subscribe for weekly episodes to help you fuel your profit, level up your cash flow, and finance your growth. Until next time, go enjoy some green M&Ms and protect that cash.